And Dawn was my first cousin, um, but also really good friend and really close to my children and I. We spent a lot of time together. Yeah.
And Dawn, is she originally from the Syracuse area? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And how did she end up in Rochester? Do you know, like, did she move over here?
So her husband Paul, I know that he works out of Rochester. Um, and she also worked in Rochester as well. But recently stopped working and just started painting and really putting her focus into that. Um, she's an artist, and he just that's what they did. That's what they did.
And I know that when we were talking before, you were kind of telling me about the last time that you spoke with her. Do you want to share that with me?
Um, so over the summer, the kids and I we went to Rochester and spent the weekend with her and Paul, and we went to the Rochester Zoo, and we had a really good time. And she I'm trying to remember everything that we did, but we went shopping and we ran around town, and she was she was a strong role model for my children and I.
And when did you first meet her? How did your relationship sort of start? I know she's your first cousin, so
Yeah,
probably since
we
forever.
grew up together, really close, and we've had uh, a lot of death in our family, and she's always been a strong advocate. Um, her and I have been like that soft spot when like her father or well, my uncle Ron and my uncle Carl, they didn't want to do those sentimental things, when it came to, like in the pictures together and, flowers. And we made sure that we made it very special. He would, our uncles would kind of just leave it up to us to make sure that everything was done well.
I would say, what's a fond memory that you have with her, whether that's a holiday or a birthday?
Oh, wow. There's a lot. There's so many. I mean, we have been to so many concerts together. We went to Seedstock in Cortland. We went to Sylvan Beach, and we both rented out cabins there right next to each other. It was like um, a thought out, very special time, because then we had our family come up, but we had the space, and so we were able to do that. We orchestrated. Um, my grandmother, our grandmother, before she passed, she was in her 90s, and we were in Sylvan Beach at that time, and we took her on a roller coaster. And because she really wanted to do it, that was like and that was a big deal. I do have pictures with that, which I think is really awesome and so much fun. And we a lot of music. We went when my daughter was in a carrier. We went to the Head and the Heart in Rochester. I mean, my daughter was 6 months old, and we're at a concert, and we always did those things together. Whether it was food, art, music, we were doing it together. Yeah.
Amazing. She truly sounds very family oriented. That's true.
Hmm.
And what would you say is just something that you'd want people to know about her that maybe they didn't know or that you really admire?
She, her artwork, she was just able to now um, really like like go into her passion with art, and she was just getting better and better with it, and her love for nature and people and music, and she was always ready to lend like a helping hand or a kind word, and so patient, so kind, and I'm this would have been something that she would have protested against. I mean, this act, this would have been something that um, this would have hurt her heart, that somebody would, do this um, deliberately. And for this to happen to her is awful. Yeah. She's a really kind, patient, sweet person. And I'm still in shock really about it.
Right, I was just about to ask you, how are you doing? I know I can only imagine when you first heard. I'm not sure if it was on Thursday when we had learned or sooner, but I can only imagine that it was
Yeah.
just gut.
She's a, she's a, she was a beautiful person. And Paul too. I mean, and I don't know how Paul is. I have not spoken with him, but they were just two peas in a pod. I mean, they did everything together, and they relied on each other. I mean, they were perfect. And I'm not quite sure how, and that was one thing that my daughter did say to me. She said, when I told her, she was in tears. I mean, because my daughter and Dawn had a great bond. They just connected. And I mean, since she was born, she was there. I mean, not she came to visit us in Buffalo, and they always did. They always had a really strong bond. And she just said, well, I don't know what Paul's gonna do without Dawn. And so, yeah,
And I know you were telling me about her love of music as well as art, and
yeah.
did you know that she was attending the Mo concert that New Year's Eve day?
I did not know, but that does sound like something that she would have done. And yeah,
And I
that's
know
her type of music. She loves jam bands and Grateful Dead, and yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you were telling me a little bit about when you two had like music is something that you shared a bond over as well. I don't know if you want to explain any more about some memories that you have of enjoying that together.
Oh, there have been so many times. I mean, she's come out to Syracuse to see music, when she's visiting her family, or her dad. And so there have been times we would come to Rochester and we would just all go see music. Seed Stock, I do remember this. There's a all day festival we went to, and we had such a good time. We planned all these things out, like, like, and got everything together for it. And I was gonna, the Head and the Heart in Rochester, Seed Stock. We've been to the Lost Horizon to see music, um, in Syracuse. Um, there so many times. That was a huge part of it all. Yeah.
Really sounds like great times. It almost seems like she's a sister figure to you. Is that?
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
I would say, because I know you were telling me, kind of like in my family, my sister is kind of like the glue as well, and she
Yes.
brings
Yes.
joy and happiness. Is that true for?
Yes. Oh, definitely.
And
Yes.
you said what age? It's like from the very beginning. So like since you were born, you kind of like knew each other and
Oh
just.
yeah. Yes. But then honestly, yes, we've always been in each other's lives, the holidays and things like that. But as we got older, we became really close, in the past, maybe we're going to say 8 years, um, very close to the children and I. Anything that would pertain to the children, or something fun that we could do all together, we were all about it.
And what's something that you'll miss most or that you think about most when you reflect on Dawn?
Um, she could light up any room with her smile. And she was so positive and patient and kind, and would never hurt anybody. And she always saw the good in everything.
Definitely. I can tell from just pictures that she radiates just so much care. And I know
Mhm.
that you were kind of talking about her activism a little bit before, but just
Yeah.
for others, it takes a special kind of person to be that voice and to be that person. I don't know if you want to elaborate on any of her activism at all, but
I'm not totally sure. as because I'm sure that there are many times that, um, she has done like profound advocacy, but I do know that she she definitely was an advocate for peace and equality and love. And I know that she was a strong leader for sure. And she was very humble about it too. Um, she didn't, that's another thing, she didn't, voice it or talk about it, but when it came up, um, you knew that you would know that that was not something that she wouldn't attend certain events if they had anything, against what she was believing, as she just wanted peace and happiness. And so yeah.
Definitely someone who had some strong values and stuck to them.
Hmm.
And tell me, how do you hope that the community, whether that's her local community in Syracuse or even here in Rochester, how do you hope people remember Dawn?
As a strong leader, compassionate, genuine, kind, soft spoken. I one of a kind. I mean, you're never gonna find anybody else like her.
And as you think about her, especially during this time, is there any one moment that sticks out to you that you think about over and over about, wow, she's just.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've had a lot of private conversations, and she she would just we would listen to each other. She was just such a great listener, and she always had something positive, and you know she was just so genuine with every action that she made. um and she did things with her, I mean, with her heart and soul. um she dropped the kids and I off. We stayed with her in Rochester for a weekend, and she was like, Brandi, you got to help me clean out my attic. Like, when are you going to come help me clean out my attic? And I have the kids and we're trying to do all this stuff. And she went up there and she was like, all right, do you think this would sell? Like, I'll give it to you, just get it out of my attic, because she didn't want it up there anymore. And she gave me, like an old typewriter, some speakers, um a bike trainer, and all she wanted me to do was just sell them for her. I'm like, I'll give you the money. And she's like, I don't want the money, just get them out of my attic because we need to clean it out. And she was asking me for so long, but she had a small vehicle, and it just wasn't happening. But so that was a big deal for her to just like get rid of things, to declutter. And she didn't want the money for it, so I sold these things and I made some good money. And I'm like, Dawn, I made. And she was like, I don't care, I don't want to know about the money, I'm glad that they're out of my house. So that is that was the last like big memory that I have with her, that I'm like, Dawn, I'll give you, Brandi, I don't want the money, I don't need it, it's not that. Thank you for taking them. So
Someone who was
that
in.
was my, yeah, that was the last big memory. Yeah.
And is there anything else that you wanted to add that I didn't ask you about and you're thinking of right now?
She not only was she a good friend, cousin, she was a daughter, a wife, an aunt, um, and she made a huge impact on this world. And I know that she'll be around, the children and I, personally helping like she always has and always does. I'm gonna miss her a lot.
Is there any place to view her art, or is it online anywhere?
Um, I'm not quite sure. She did have at her home with Paul, she had an art room, and her art was everywhere, and she had a space with good lighting and paints and everything you could imagine. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but she has made my children, she crocheted some like little, like little teddy bears. And she was like, this was my first time trying it. And they're amazing. Like everything she did, she would just be humble about, but it was extraordinary. And she did a charcoal drawing of a picture of our grandfather who also passed away. Um, and it is unbelievable. And I do have that. I have to look for it. Because I just took a quick picture. I'm like, she's like, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm like, it's not just pretty good. I'm like, this is phenomenal. And
Mhm.
I would always do that with her because she just kind of, she was just humble about how extraordinary her work was. Yeah. But I
And
don't have any actual pieces of artwork.
gotcha. Okay. Well,
No.
hopefully sometime down the line, I don't know if Paul or anyone else in her family has anything and would be willing to share, but hopefully
Yeah,
to light because
it
I
should happen because it's profound. She's really great. And I don't think she knew how great she was too when it came to that. I told her that she should start, she was really interested in doing portraits, but she was doing a lot of still life. And I'm like, Dawn, you need to focus on portraits. Yeah, maybe I will. I'm like, listen to me. You have to. So